Space Cowboy Books presents Simultaneous Times, a science and speculative fiction podcast. Short stories to stir the imagination by contemporary authors.
Just Let Me Help by Tara Campbell, with music by Fog Machine, read by Jenna Hanchey.
Monday. How can Hank be angry? I've solved his problem. Like I solve all his problems. When he lets me. He doesn't even have to lift a finger. I lifted all of them for him. And removed them from his office so he won't get in trouble. He always accuses me of emasculating him when I try to help. Whatever. I'm just trying to get the truth. I mean, is it so unreasonable to want to know why there were 4 dismembered fingers on his desk? Regardless, I'll drop it for the moment so Hank won't have to worry about anything but his upcoming audition. Fortunately, none of the fingers are his. He needs all 10 of them for the keyboard. I'll play the supportive girlfriend, as always, until the audition is over. But after that, I'll need some answers. Tuesday. Hank's still nagging me to find out what I did with the fingers, but I won't give them back until I know exactly whose they are. Is that such a creepy thing to want to know? Of course, he won't like it when he hears I fingerprinted them, just in case. Have you ever tried cleaning ink off a fingertip that's not attached to a hand? Wednesday. Hank's really putting the pressure on, like he's a mob boss instead of a frustrated middle school music teacher. Not to worry, though. They look like full-grown fingers. No children were harmed in the making of these mysterious paperweights. I'm sorry. That's not funny. It's not polite to speak ill of the dead or mock the recently unfingered. I'm keeping them cold. They still look fresh enough. I think they could still be reattached. No harm done. I could get them to their person, keep Hank out of it. But first, I'd have to know who it is. Thing is, with his audition being tomorrow, I don't dare ask now. I just don't know why he won't let me help him take care of these fingers. Thursday. Whoever these fingers belonged to, it was a man. He has a nice manicure. Had. I mean, the manicure still exists, but the owner's separated from it. Cooling the fingers seems to have been a moot point. I've realized by now the point was not to give them back to their original owner. Otherwise, Hank would have told me who it was. So, again, how am I being difficult by not giving them back to him? Now I just have to sit and wait to hear how his audition went. Maybe then he'll relax enough to share what's really going on. Why won't he open up to me? Can't he see how much I care about him? Friday. Okay, Now I have another reason for wanting to know who these fingers came from. They're growing. No, I haven't measured them, but I'm certain they're getting longer. I distinctly remember when I first swiped them off his desk into my purse that they were cut just above the second knuckle. Now they're longer, and one of them is starting to develop webbing on the sides, like when it was attached to other fingers. So now I want to know who I'm growing here and how this works. Will I grow just one person, or will each finger grow into its own copy of the guy? Who knows? I might be growing 4 separate people. Improbable, but possible, if they all went to the same manicurist. So, apparently, the audition went well. Otherwise, Hank would have called, griping and grumbling, telling me everything that was wrong with the process. I can only take his silence to mean that he's happy. It would be nice to share that with him. Saturday. Hank finally called, but only to talk about the fingers. He doesn't believe they're growing. Says he wants to take a look for himself. He must think I'm a rube. I've moved them to another location. I'm invested now. I want to find out who this is. And if Hank won't tell me, I'll just have to find out for myself. I know for a fact they're growing. They've attached themselves to one another with a web of skin. Kind of like Hank attached his lips to that violinist in the photo I found online. She's a friend of a friend, someone we met at a party a few months ago. But who knows? Maybe they already knew each other. Maybe they were just acting like strangers. Maybe all this time he's been off practicing, he's been with her instead. Maybe he's been playing me all this time. Sunday. The fingers are moving. Last time I went to check on them, I heard tapping even before I opened the container. I watched them for an hour, fingertips lifting up and down. It wasn't random, like a spasm. There was some kind of rhythm. I must find out what it means. I can't ask Hank, though. He's so curt with me, just asking about the fingers. I don't even have to ask about the other woman. He really should have talked to me about her, about everything. I wish he'd let me help him. Monday. Well, if Hank and I were still on speaking terms, I'd congratulate him. I heard about his new job on the radio. They say it's just temporary, until the Philharmonic's missing pianist can be found. I expect Hank is settling in quite nicely. I have no idea what possessed him to keep the fingers. A keepsake? Maybe he thought they'd have something to teach him. Well, he's not wrong. Turns out they've been quite instructive. When, on a hunch, I placed them on my phone, they immediately opened the map and navigated to Hank's backyard. The police are there right now, gathering evidence from what I assume is a stunningly shallow and sloppy grave. Hank was never very athletic. I handed over the fingers, too. No pun intended. I expect they'll pick Hank out of the lineup on the first try. And what then? When he goes to trial, will they be called to testify, to point at Hank from the witness stand? And what happens once the trial is over? Will the fingers go back to the pianist's home, or will they need a new place to stay? I could help them with that. I like helping people. At some point, everyone needs a hand, even fingers. And yes, even Hank. Still, despite everything, I'll keep his piano safe while he's in jail. And when the fingers come to live with me, I hope they'll teach me how to play.
Jackpot God by Brandon Case, with music by TSG, read by Jean-Paul Garnier. With hands clasped, Harold knelt beside his bed and prayed on knees calloused and numb. His elbows dug trenches in the lavender duvet that his wife, Sarah, had bought on their honeymoon. He rarely languished beneath its softness after the accident, instead preferring to sleep where he prayed, day and night, trying to win a resurrection. Power Father, boon grant of haven, fallow be my shame. By trademarked son, thy bills become, in mirth of competition, giving away a miracle a day, no purchase necessary, void where prohibited. Harold drew a mental breath. Please return my family. The personal plea wasn't required, but superstition abounds games of chance, and those 4 words had accompanied every lesser prize he'd won. Sarah had still been with him for the announcement, her belly swollen with their son, Billy. Together they'd stared at an enormous image projected against the upper atmosphere, a human visage writ at grandest scale. Feminine features and a metallic black skin flecked with stars, suns for eyes, lips mischievous, and eyebrows canted somewhere between amused and angry. An apparition. An artificial general intelligence developed by Haven Incorporated. With post-human nanotechnology, it infected our world. With post-human sentience, it took responsibility. The miles-wide mouth had opened with pointed white teeth sparkling, and a voice sonorous, but far too loud. Hear ye, added with addendum to world economy. Play Jackpot God. Pray to win. No purchase necessary. Void in Parliament and all houses of Senate. Fine print to follow. Harold had guffawed at pray to win, figuring it was a scam or an elaborate marketing gimmick. His derision had roused fury from his beloved Sarah. She berated him for denigrating this boon and what it could offer the disadvantaged. That fight was an enduring regret. He shouldn't have condemned the Jackpot God as a cruelty. His cutting words served only to taint his wife's hope and foul a moment he couldn't recover. Screens flickered worldwide, hijacked to display terms and conditions. 1 ticket per prayer. 1 prayer per minute. Script for the Jackpot God's recitation, and miracle prize odds. 1 in 200, food delivery. 1 in 400, household supplies or transit. 1 in 800, vestments or entertainment. 1 in 2,000, 1 household ornament. 1 in 8,000, 1 month of shelter. 1 in 50,000, 1 vacation of choice. 1 in 5 million, 1 jackpot, a major miracle. Limit 1 per devoted life includes resurrection. The miracles began immediately. Social turbulence ensued. Economies dissolved. Whitehaven drones delivered food to any who prayed for the required hours and got a little lucky. Rents credited, supplies provided, recreation. A happy half-decade for Harold. On a bedside table lay a snapshot from that time, framed in silver. Sarah beaming and holding Billy, their son, who held Billy, their beagle. With bright-eyed benevolence, his son had insisted on sharing his name with the pup. All gone. All but Harold, who stupidly stayed home while his family drove to the dog park and got murdered by a drunk driver at 9 a.m. Now, Harold, a lifelong atheist, knelt day and night beside his bed praying for miracles from an artificial god. Most rewards he gave away. Food, supplies, entertainment, vacation. Useless to him, but a boon to some living family. Until 11:51 p.m. on Tuesday, in the glow of streetlights through his window, with his breath misting and nose numb and heater forgotten again, something marvelous happened. After his 1,126th prayer of the day erupted an explosion of confetti, noise, and strobing lights.
Jackpot, Harold.
A face of metallic black replaced his ceiling like a starry sky sagging inward and staring down. Laughing sun eyes and brows tilted aggressive.
Major miracle you've won. Heard I all your whispers of family want. Name one person, and I shall resurrect.
One? A choice between those he loved. Impossible. Confirmation of the cruelty he'd always sensed. I choose my one family, lost in one accident.
One name, Harold. Make your choice.
There was apparently no arguing with infinity. And you'll return them intact and whole?
Body and soul. Complex maths make both, you know.
Facing this distilled eternity of interest unknown, Harold suppressed his reaction. He didn't trust such a powerful being, who could read his thoughts, which complicated an honest weighing of choice, lest he invite trickery or give offense, even buried in formless landscapes of subterranean thought. As his deepest heart acknowledged, God is an untrustworthy asshole and taker of all.
I heard that.
Jackpot God laughed through pointed teeth. Harold missed his wife. He missed his son and his pup. Repugnant to force this choice and live with the consequences of love not revived, a part of his heart not measured as strongly against others. But Sarah remained his guide. There was only one choice she'd accept.
Give me the name,
Jackpot God said. Billy. Harold's stomach nodded, devastated to come so near seeing his wife, overjoyed to soon be reunited with his son. The great face giggled and exhaled mist like an ancient god of wind. His room filled with the smell of myrrh and cardamom and charcoal and copper. All swirled inward. Vapors condensed molecule by molecules to form a body. Said the resurrected beagle. Harold collapsed to his knees. Billy the dog leaped into his arms and licked his numb face. Gently, Harold pushed the pup aside and stood. You trickster, artifice of human folly. You vessel falsely righteousness. Damn you to hell. Jackpot God grinned and crowed.
Ho ho. Careful tread, my Harold. Blasphemers beg a thunderbolt.
You broke the jackpot terms.
I gave that which you named. A Billy asked, a Billy delivered.
You listened to prayers spoken in my mind. No truth of my wish was unknown to you. I demand you return my son. A frown stained the metallic face like rust, quickly scored to amusement.
Merciful feeling I, instead of electrocution, a compromise, a chimera. Soul you seek, but body of my choice. Farewell, Herald.
The jackpot god exhaled a final puff of mist and vanished.
I'll watch you struggle, always.
The beagle's head expanded until his canine skull grew large enough to house a human brain. Through fangs, Billy lisped, a voice distorted yet familiar.
Daddy?
Harold pulled Sarah's lavender duvet off the bed and wrapped Billy against the cold. He knelt and held his furry son. In this episode of Simultaneous Times, you heard Just Let Me Help by Tara Campbell, with music by Fog Machine, and Jackpot God by Brandon Case, with music by TSG. Theme music by Dane Lusko. Be sure to visit us at our bookstore in Joshua Tree, California, or visit us online at spacecowboybooks.com.